Hi, everybody. We are having some new technology here. We're working with something called the Owl, which is fantastic. Very excited about it. New year, new technology. Thank you, Katie, for making it possible. So before we start, I'd like to just throw it at Katie and, to give us the official welcome for 2024.
Thank you very much. Yes, welcome everybody, online and here in person. Thank you to those of you who joined us last year and are back. And for those of you who are new, thank you for coming. I hope there are others that you do attend or spread the word and invite others to come. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great year. Thank you. Really, thank you seriously for all those who did fill out the survey. The information was wonderful, and Yvonne was, I thought, very good at responding to it in the way that she has organized this year. So thank you for that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's going to be a great season.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you. I would like to repeat what Katie said. Thank you so much for those that gave us feedback on what they wanted to learn. We have created 10-year workshop series that 10-month workshop series that I think would be, something that fits the needs of everyone that responded. So I'm going to just check with the people we have in the looking at us remotely. Let's see, I can see if you can turn your cameras on will be great so we can see you and we can share with you. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, it's fine as well. Hi, Consuelo, how are you? It's nice to see you.
Okay.
Thank you for that because we're testing to see if we can hear everybody. Okay. So we will get started. These nonprofit capacity series in 2024 are, starting today with why data should be our best friend. We have, I have a few good tips on data and so on. But before we move on, let me see. Oh, you see, now it's not working my my pointer. Let's see.
All the buttons off.
Okay, so this is our year ahead. Why data should be our best friend is the one that we started today. And then we're going to move into some of the things that people wanted to see a little bit more about. Leadership was a big one. A lot of people wanted to know about leadership. So we will be talking about how to move from being an individual contributor to an outstanding leader in the month of February. In March, I'm going to teach you coaching, and I'm going to teach you how to be a coach of your team and how to be a coach of each other, because everyone should be able to coach each other through our work. Then we'll move in April and May into presentations that are more in line with what we taught last year, but this is a more advanced kind of learning. So we're going to be talking about keeping your team accountable as well. And when you get the invitation, you will have a link to our previous video if you want to review what we did last year. And same thing with conflict management. We'll move a little bit more ahead to give you actionable tools that you can use to manage conflict in your office. We're going to move beyond the theory of conflict management. We're going to talk about skills that you can use to manage conflict. Interagency collaborations was a big one. A lot of people wanted to know how to work together and use each other's resources. And in a collaboration kind of situation, well, and we are going to be talking about marketing strategies for outreach in the community. As you know, nonprofit have many audiences. We have people who are engaging in our work because they want to give. We have people who want to receive our services, and we want to get to them effectively. So in that session, we are going to be talking about how to do outreach for the people that you're serving, so your programs are well attended and you can get the results that you want. We will be talking about donor engagement and managing grants. Very important for the getting those dollars in that you need to do your work. And then at the end of the year, we are going to be talking about strategizing and executing effectively. With the tools that you gain throughout the year, you probably will be in better shape to start getting into more strategy when you plan your work. Today is a big one on strategy. But some people are very strategic and have a hard time executing. Other people are very good at executing but have a hard time making a strategy. So how do we combine those? So that's my commercial for our year presentation. I hope you are able to attend to as many as you can. So I'm turning things around this year a little bit regarding the order in which we do things, because our presentations are now an hour and a half, because they're on Tuesdays. We figured, people need more time to get back to the office and continue doing their so we are going to turn things around a little bit, but we will continue observing our principles that we like to observe. One of them, and the one that I ask for the most, is that you be present at the presentation. Don't multitask if you can avoid it. Because what happens is when you are multitasking, then I ask you a question and you have no idea what I asked you. And that's very embarrassing. So try to be present and you can take in what we're learning today and participate as much as you can. Another principle that I like to go by is that we all have the power to make changes around us. We all have that agency. And so even if you see things difficult, you can actually make a decision of what you're going to do with those difficult things. So my workshops try to be from the empowerment kind of perspective, right? These are the things that you can really do. Not so much talk about the problems, but these are the things that you can effectively do. Another principle that I love is that we all learn from each other. We saw this last year when we were having our presentations. The sharing part was the most important, because we all got to build community, talk about the things that were going on. We didn't feel alone. And on top of that, learn a lot from the audience. A lot of the people that came with their ideas taught me a lot as well. Therefore, participation is critical. Another important piece is this should be a safe space for everybody to share what's going on. It's a space in which we allow ourselves to talk about the challenges and what is not working, but we want to feel that in order to share, we have a safe space in which we are respected. So therefore, we practice the yes and kind of communication, meaning that if we don't agree with somebody when they are saying something, or we want to present a different perspective, we are able to acknowledge what the other person is saying with a yes and add our own point of view to the situation. So tips for engaging. If you are out and you have a question or need to mention something, please speak up. It's very hard for me to see the chat and what is going on in the chat, although I will go and review it back and forth throughout the presentation. We will have one break. Today, the break is designed to be more towards the 3/4 of the presentation, because I have some concepts that I don't want to lose the rhythm for. But we will have a short break. For people that are present here, the restroom is right on the right over there. We will have the PowerPoints and the supporting documents to you. Email after we finish the presentation. Katie will take care of that. And also you will get a link to the recording of the presentation as well. And what we ask you in return is that you fill our survey and give us feedback to let us know how things work, if you have any suggestions, if there's something we could have addressed and we didn't. It's really the only way that we get to improve and do better for you. So we really, really appreciate the feedback. All right, so let's go into the agenda. So the things that we're going to be covering today is, first, what is data and why people collect data. And why that data is important to you. And excuse my pronunciation, I will say data and data at some points. It depends on how the rhythm of the sentence works for me, and in my English. But yes, we will be talking about what data is important to you and why it should be your best friend. I really want to make the case, people not to hate data, actually for people to feel that data is a tool that they can use. We are also going to talk about what is it to achieve the best appropriate balance when you collect data. Because data is can be a lot, right? We will be addressing good data, stages of data collection, and data analysis. What does that look like? Then we'll take a break. We'll share a little bit more, and then we are going to be talking about how to collect data effectively. So that's the plan for today. I hope I covered most of your, the things that you would like to learn about it. So let's start with data. I always like to go to my dictionary, definitions because, English is my second language. So I always want to know exactly what something is defined. So data comes from the Latin word datum, which means thing given. Not a lot of insight in there for me. So what the dictionary said was that it is factual information such as measurements or statistics that are used as a base for reasoning, discussion, and calculation. Still very like theoretical, right? So what it means to us really is that data is an umbrella term that we use to describe information that has been translated to be processed, to be interpreted, and to be managed. Um, Now, we tend to think about data as numbers. There are many kinds of data. And as the technology advances, we continue on learning about new data collection systems. For example, audios, videos, text, pictures. Those are all kind of data that exist out there. And we know very well, for example, through social media, that they collect all kind of information on us based on our activity, right? Depending on what videos we watch the most, they put in our feed the recommendations of things that are more like what we like. And as a result, right, market products to you that are more of what we like. For example, I always get videos of children doing funny things on my feed because they understand that this is what I like and how they can engage me more. So all these pieces that technology keeps changing really represent different kind of data that is being collected daily to for us to make decisions about how to sell us better products, how to get to us, how to help us make decisions that are convenient, of course, for the person that is collecting the data. So in that sense, right, this applies to you as well, because you want to do in your agencies work that is fits the people you are serving well. And that's why we should be collecting data. So why do people collect data? So the first thing is that predictability, and I'm going to close this a little bit so you guys can see the screen over here in the house. The first thing is that predictability allows us to control our environment. It's giving us really a better chance for survival. So if we predict, we are able to really think about what the future is going to look like. As far as we know, humans are the only animal who can consciously predict what could happen based on previous experience. Of course, animals have instincts that they pass on from one another and so on. Humans are the only one that conscientiously can make decisions based on what happened in the past. So this quote is usually assigned to Albert Einstein. I found no proof that he really actually said it. It is very popular, which is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Another way to look at it is that those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. The way I like to think about it, I learned on this book, Sapiens, which is about the prehistory of humankind. And the author talks about how humans evolved to live in societies. So the key point here was when humans stopped being nomads, they decided they want to think about the future and grow their own food, and they started with agriculture. It was kind of the time in which humans made the change to try and work on having a predictable environment will produce certain results. As opposed of running every day after some sort of animal so that they can be fed, now they were investing time into thinking, okay, if I plant these plants, this is what I can get to feed my family during the winter and for the rest of the year. Maybe I can exchange some of it with other people and they can give me what they grow and so on. So it's really at those times in which humans settle was when we started doing things like counting, right? Like making sure that we knew how much we had versus how much there was. And I would say that to me personally is the base of how humans have evolved and now think about data in a way that helps them predict the future. So it's pretty much very, very human kind of thing to do since many, many thousands of years ago. Okay, so why are we talking about data? First of all, I like to believe and think that data is a communication tool. It's a way that we tell other people what we have done and they can relate to it. Their minds can process it, right? So it's not like, the afterthought, the thing that I have to do every month. It's really a way for me to communicate with other people about what I'm doing. So as a community service provider, you know that you're doing hard work, right? But if you don't record that hard work, right? Somehow, it is very challenging to prove that you are obtaining results for what you're doing. And we know that intrinsically, but it doesn't necessarily apply to our liking for data, right? Yet it is a tool so that other people can understand that what we are doing has impact. With data, an important thing is that you should be in the driver's seats. Data shouldn't be an afterthought. It shouldn't be the thing that I think about when my report is due. It should be the opposite way. You should think about it ahead and plan ahead for when you are going to create a new program. We will talk about that and we will go over details about what kind of approach can you take to do that. I think that most people that are connected to community services and nonprofit work want to make the difference in people's lives. But how are you making that difference? That's the question. How do you show that you're making a difference in people's lives? And lastly, if you are a supervisor, right, that is usually in charge of producing these data reports and speaking about it and sending them, whether it is to a funder or to the state or to your boss or to the board of directors, setting the tone for your team regarding data is very important. If your team gets from you that you understand the importance of data, they will follow that lead. So now I want to go to the, I'm gonna put you guys back in here and ask you the following question. How is data relevant to you and the work that you're doing? And because we didn't do introductions in the beginning, what I want to do this time is when you speak, please state your name, your organization's name, and what role do you have in that organization? And then you can tell us how is data relevant to you. So if anybody would like to share, if not, I'm going to start calling people.
Me, I'll go.
Thank you, Consuelo. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Consuelo Salas and I work for the Norwalk Housing Authority. I oversee a program that is called the Family Self-Sufficiency, and my responsibility is limited to the Housing Choice Voucher segment. And the way that we use data, the reason we collect data is because we have to be able to demonstrate to our funders, whether they are, the federal government or, our management and our board of directors, what the progress is that the program is making and how many people we serve, what type of services they are, getting linked up to, and how they're successful in completing the programs and what some of the limitations are that they face.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Consuelo. May I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
The data you report on, is it given to you like the standards, or are you able to provide data that is not necessarily what they are asking you for?
Okay, we use a variety of tools. We have what our internal tracking system of all of our units that we have in housing. We have close to, I would say, 2,000 units. That's both public housing as well as Section 8 households. And then what we do is we report on the people that participate in our program, and we match from one database to the other and see if there are any differences. And then we reconcile that on a, I would say, bi-monthly.
Mhm.
And then we do have some information that is provided by people who want to join our program, because we give them forms to fill out. And then that's how we also gather more data.
Okay, do you like gathering data?
Excuse me?
Do you like gathering data?
Oh, I love it. No, I don't love gathering the data. I love working with the data, because
Uh-huh.
it's all how you sort the information. It tells a different story to whoever it is that we need to present it to.
Uh-huh. So you can really see it as a tool to be able to inform people about what you're doing.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else virtually that would like to share their experience with data, or how is it relevant to you?
I can go.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you.
Hi. Hi, my name is Lisa Casagrande Keppel. I am the executive director of Malta House. And as of 4 days from now, I'll be here a whole 6 months. So I've come from a background of agencies that work with mothers with children, and I am new to this area. And I think the data that we collect sometimes isn't meeting the needs of what our funders. We don't have a lot of individual funders. We're looking to go out to more grant based than we are right now. And I think we need different sets of data than what we're currently collecting. And so I thought I'd, join this to see what else I can do and how I can streamline what we're doing here, because I think we're not going to be able to continue just relying on individual donors, which is pretty much our whole data. I mean, all the funding that we get is pretty much that. And I really want to find a way to, change that up a little bit. And I think that's going to be through collecting the data and what we offer and the people that we serve, and going out for more grant dollars.
Thank you so much for sharing, Lisa. And it's not uncommon what you face, right? The funders are asking you for data that is not really relevant to the people you're serving. We will be talking about that. So hopefully what we talk about helps you a little bit. I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to hearing more about that. Sharon, you have that.
Hey,
Hi.
how are you? So, for me, my name is Sharon, and I work for the Norwalk Housing. I'm a case manager for some part of the Norwalk Housing, not the entire Norwalk Housing, representing some individuals from our an old neighborhood. And collecting data to me is very relevant. I start out with intake forms, and you go from like on a daily, every time I speak with someone, I collect data, because you have to track individuals' lives, situations, and knowing how is it that you can help them by just even reviewing what they have told you. And it's almost like you're doing an assessment of their lives as you go along. So that's a very important tool to me to have, you know, um, learn about, and to continue to know how to do it in a correct way.
Great. How do you feel about interpreting the data that you get and making decisions based on that?
How do I feel about
You
um
know, analyzing your data, in other words.
the analyzing? Yes. It's kind of hard sometimes, but what I do is I kind of analyze it, but I also um I think I incorporate the individuals with what I'm summarizing. So I'm not just making the decision. I kind of like say, well, so this is what I got from, and are we on the same page type of thing. And it's good because then I can share it with my colleagues who are working with the case or know the individual, and we all do it as a decision making, not necessarily just me saying, well, you need to do this or you need to do that. So with what you have told me, let's see, let me reiterate it to you, and let's work together and see if this is what you meant to say, or this is what's going on in your life. So that's how my analyzing it comes about. It's a group thing for me, because I get them involved. They have to be involved. What they tell me, I have to verify it again and again.
Mhm.
you know
Absolutely.
yeah.
But thank you so much, Sharon, for
Mhm.
sharing. You see, guys, we got so much knowledge here in the room. People are sharing things that we are learning from. So that's awesome. Anybody else from the remote world that would like to share? Okay, so I'm moving the room here for a little bit. If anybody would like to share, no pressure. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Katie Fitzmaurice. I'm with Under One Roof, the Marvin in East Norwalk. We're a senior affordable housing and childcare center. Next week will be my 4-month anniversary as the executive director. So we always collect data from our families and our senior residents, but we've never really done anything. So we have a lot of information that I think would be great for funders and supporters. And we just need to start figuring out how to kind of put it all together, present it.
Very cool. You're at a nice stage because you can create from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, from sharing. Do have another sharing situation later on in the PowerPoint, so we will come back to you guys. So let's see if my pointer works. Okay, so I'm gonna close. Yeah. Is it okay that I close the door?
Yeah.
Yeah. The outside noise. So what should be your best friend? Data provides you with the following. First, important information of the past. Did this work? Right? I have a program. I wanted to have 25 people coming in the program. I have 5 showing up. Did this program work? Did it raise enough interest that we had enough people coming in? The power of making better informed decisions based on the feedback from the past. Again, was this something that is worth repeating? Or if it's worth repeating, do we need to tweak it and make changes in some way so that we can, have better performance? Inca provide you with actionable insights, like, for example, your target market. In other words, for us, is who needs your services, right? We know today that just thinking about a population as a whole group does not serve anybody. Marketing knows that very well, right? When they do targeted marketing, it's not only about age and gender and color of the skin. It's a whole thing, right? What is their income and so on. So when we create programs, it's very important to keep in mind who is it that we are serving with that program. It also provides you with information on who likes your service, what service is more appropriate to who. So in other words, what is appropriate to provide in a program for school age kids is not the same we need for a program for the elderly, right? So we learn through our data collection that there are certain things that we need to do that are more appropriate for one population over another one. Talks about what is good about your product or which service is more valuable, right? What is it that people prefer, the workshop or the luncheon? What do they come the most to, right? Do they prefer one-on-one meetings with a counselor, or do they prefer to come as a group and do brainstorming together? And it also helps you gather information so you can get the right message to the right people. Pretty much, like I said before, we can cater to everybody. We need to figure out and make decisions based on how our program is working out for the people that we're serving and, desegregate it that way. So those are the things that are valuable about data. But for you to have good data, you also have to have the right balance in data. See if I can close this a little bit. One sec. To the bottom, so it doesn't bother the people in the room. So if you're too data driven, your process can become too rigid. So it is important to balance different things. One are numbers, which provide you with good information, but you also have to have that narrative, that story that goes along with the thing that you're doing, and also your intuition, your observations. So, for example, Sharon gave a very good example how she collects data and then works with the participant to make sure that what she's servicing fits that person's needs. She uses the data to work with her client. At the same time, while she's working with the client, she may observe certain things that work for certain kind of people, right? That may be valuable to bring into the table. So let's say, for example, I have a financial literacy and want to teach people how to manage their finances better. My hard numbers are how many people came, how many people graduated from the program, et cetera, how many people we got engaged into the program, and so on. When we add a narrative to it, we have the story of the people that come, right? So and so came, they just arrived to the country and they were able to engage into this program, they're doing better. We have the story. Tuition may say things like, for example, this group seems to do better when I'm doing classes in the evening than when I do classes in the morning. I haven't proven that yet. I haven't presented a survey to people asking them, when does this program work better for you? But based on my intuition, it can help me inform what kind of data I want to collect in the future because I kind of like I'm paying attention to the different little cues in my environment. And as services providers, you know much better what is it that is happening with the people that you're serving than anybody else, better than the state, better than Washington, D.C., better than your funders. You know because you're living with it daily. So it's this combination that needs to find the right balance. So if we want to even take it further in kind of a way that shows you what it looks like, when you think about data, let me see if I can hide this little loading. Okay. So when you think about data, it's a pile of information. Like you were saying.
That's what mine looks like.
That's what it looks like. Right? It looks like a pile of information. We got a lot of information. We don't know what to do with it. You can basically sort it, put it in different pockets, right? You can arrange it. You can present it visually, but until you tell the story, it doesn't make any effect. So for example, I can have Maria that comes into my services and I know that Maria is getting services from me every month. And then I sorted. In January, she came and got help from the food pantry. In February, she took financial literacy classes. In March, she took our classes for finding a job. In April, she was able to get a job and she's not using the food pantry anymore, right? I'm organizing my data in a way that tells me a story. But only when I get to Maria and I said, Maria, how has our service impacted your life? Is when I get the full picture. So data without stories do not provide anything meaningful. Stories without data do not show proof that they actually was specifically done. So when we talk about data, it's both that need to merge and work together, right? So when we think about quantitative, that kind of data, which is mainly numbers, comparison, and so on, they can tell you a lot, but they lack of the narrative, they lack of the story behind it. So I'm looking at numbers. What does it mean? It means that you serve more people. Are you impacting their lives? I don't know. They just were here for class, right? So numbers are easy to compare, but they are not the only picture. When you think about narrative, it does provide you with the context. But the problem with narrative is that it can be difficult to compare sometimes. So if you're comparing narrative, not every story is the same as another, right? Stories look different, and it's very, very hard to compare unless you come up with a set of questions that you can ask everybody that can measure the narrative and the story that they are telling you. And that's why data relevancy is so, so, so important. So when we talk about data relevancy, it means, is my data relevant? Doesn't mean anything. In order to obtain data that is relevant, there are some aspects that you need to keep an eye for. First of all, good data is data that represents the real world. It is realistic. And this goes back to what Lisa was saying. This is when we talk about this, because it has to represent the people that you serve, not what other people think that it should be. So I know sometimes grants and mandates from whoever you're working for, like for example, Norwalk Housing has, certain mandates from the state based on the information that they want to know, right? So you can still collect that. It doesn't preclude you from collecting other information that could be more meaningful. So I'll give you an example. I used to run a workforce development program some years ago. And so a lot of our funders wanted to know if John took our classes and then got a temporary job and then engaged into a full-time job and then took more classes and then he got a better job and then made a better salary. That's the story they wanted us to tell them, what they wanted to know. Yet, we know that the people we're serving have lives that have certain limitations, right? And some things that get on the way. So that data wasn't really meaningful for us because it didn't provide a straightforward story like the funders wanted to. So we started collecting other data. And my big example was all the time when I was like fighting for getting this new different data in, was like, how people expect somebody that goes to college to work exactly on what they went to college? Very little, right? We know that kids go to college, even if they have the privilege that their parents have been able to help them with their studies, they have been able to help them to pay for school. Most people do not have a straightforward road. So we are asking individuals who have difficult lives because they have been faced with difficult situations to keep a straightforward road that doesn't really exist. People get situations at home, their family members get sick, they need to stop working. They may have trauma histories in their lives that may affect the way they react to the outside world. Come to work, or they get to work late because they have to take public transportation and they lose their job. So it's not a straightforward path. So when you're thinking about data relevancy, what it has to do is represent the people you're serving. How do you know this data is representing them? Any ideas? Yeah, how do you know that data is going to represent them?
You gotta know what they want.
You have to ask them.
Why?
So yes, you have to ask them. What is it that is relevant to you? And here's where your intuition comes in, right? Well, I teach this class, and when people leave, they feel a lot better about themselves. They feel they have accomplished something when they get the certificate. It may not change their life tomorrow. It may help down the road with all the other certificates they accumulate over time. But it doesn't necessarily present the result that other people want, but we know how it's making their lives change. Kids are watching their parents taking classes. They are an example, right? People feel better about themselves. They are able to be more outspoken because they have gained some sort of confidence because they have learned some skills. Those are the things that when we work with people, we have to think of and then ask them whether those things are relevant to them in order to collect data that is really meaningful. You always are going to have your funder that wants the straightforward way. It's the way our Western work works. that doesn't keep you from collecting data that is meaningful that you might be able to present to other funders that really care about the population you're serving in a different way. They are not only numbers, they are people and they have lives, right? Another thing is that good data has to be in alignment with the goals. Okay, so I'm not saying don't do it, but let's say I'm running again a financial literacy program. So the way I'm measuring is whether people learn how to manage their finances, whether they open a bank account, whether they are able to, save a little bit to buy a house or give a down payment for a car, right? That's my data that is showing me that the financial literacy works. I may have another program that is taking them to the museum. Is that relevant for what I'm trying to measure? Not necessarily. Does it make people feel better? Yes. So maybe you want to put it on the side as a side note. Yeah, by the way, we did these other things, but really your data needs to be in alignment with the goals of the programs that you are teaching. Another big piece is that data should be kept simple. Trying to tackle all problems is just very, very difficult to manage. So when you're thinking about your data, you want to know about what are the main 3 things that I really want to record, the things that are very meaningful or that I want to work with to interpret it, right? So, the more you become like super, super involved with all the complexities of the lives of the people you're serving, the more complexity may come to your data. So you have to be very, very selective about what you choose to do and share with them, share in your data. Very important. It needs to be measured for a period of time. Having data for 2 or 3 months is not enough for making decisions. You can make quick decisions about very small changes you want to make, but you have to measure this for extended period of time. That can be challenging, right? Because when we are thinking about people and the effects we have in our lives, many people leave our programs and then they'll come back, and it's very hard to do the follow-up with that. So the long term can be challenging, but it's the best kind of data that you can have. You should review it periodically, because if you wait 6 months to review your data, it's too long to try to fix what already didn't work. So you gotta look at it monthly, weekly if you can. Compare numbers, compare last year to this year. Was this program more effective? What's going on that our numbers and our feedback is not necessarily matching what we have done in the past? You gotta use consistent language. Everybody refers to things in a different way. Some people call the people they serve clients, others calls them participants. If you are putting data out there, you have to make sure that your whole organization is in sync and they know what term to use for the people you're serving and the services you are providing. And it has a relevant sample size. It is super essential not to make decisions based on 1 or 2 pieces of feedback. Okay, many times we get one person through the door that says, listen, this doesn't really work. And people change their programs based on the opinion of 1 or 2 people. What is it that you do then when something like that comes up? What would you do?
All together.
You ask them. You basically ask people whether this is relevant or not. You can do this on focus groups, you can do this on surveys. There are many ways to collect the information, but once you have a hint of something that is happening, or somebody comes and says, listen, this is not really working out, you want to find out whether it is relevant for everybody else. Okay, so continuously collecting information will allow you to make better decisions. It also will allow you to transition between some data you may be using in the past to some data that you may want to be using in the future. And, transitioning meaningful data has to have this component of transitioning slowly. It's not, we can't make the previous data disappear. We've got to work with both of them at the same time. Okay, so there are different stages of data collection. And so I have 5 stages for you kind of like to be aware of. I mean, you can look at the PowerPoint later, but it's more as knowledge in general. So the first one is the scope. Does first, what is it that I want to resolve? When I start collecting my data collection, I want to know what am I doing and what is the problem that I need to resolve. Then you have to decide on key performance indicators. In Fairfield County, we have RBAs, which is the most popular way to report data. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically reporting how much you did, how well did you do, and if anybody is better off. I'm not gonna talk specifically about it now, but if you wanna hang out at the end of the workshop, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have for RBA. But basically, when you go in and you start collecting data, you have to decide what your indicators of success are going to be. Once you have that and you start collecting the data, you have to have data control. How is the data tracked and being stored? Is available for everybody to see? Does it have integrity? Has it been entered correctly? Does it have a good measure of security, right? We do manage a lot of information that is confidential. So does it have the appropriate security? And can I use it? More importantly, can I use this data that I have been collecting? Next is analyzing the data. Means like, how do I obtain insight? So when you think about data collecting software, right? A lot of the software can produce some reports that are customizable, right? Sometimes it may not give you exactly the kind of information that you want. So, it's important that you are able to manage or have someone that can manage a little bit of moving data around to take a look and divide, your information in ways that are meaningful. I remember in one of my previous jobs, I had a data tracking system that provided me with basic information, but didn't do the breakdown. Let's say if I wanted to select participants between the ages of 20 and 30 who had kids and received food services from us. So then I had to export it to Excel and use a few things that Excel has to be able to take a look at the data that way. And last but not least, data informed decision making is the most important guess perfect. You have your data, you have analyzed it, you know that it's good data, that it has integrity, there is no garbage in and garbage out. You're really getting like some good information there. And then how do you make decisions based on that data that you have been collecting? Before we go into our break, I want to talk a little bit about data analysis. So there are three ways of growing into one another that talk about data analysis. This one is descriptive. It's kind of the most basic kind of analysis, which is historical. You see trends or insight. These are the ones that we use the most, right? We compare year to year, month to month, see how our data is kind of moving around. The next stage is the predictive stage. So in order to get here, you need a good, solid data kind of source with lots of information to create a forecast. And on the next slide, I will show you an actual example of what it could look like, right? And the descriptive model is more advanced. It provides recommendations really on how to capitalize in the future with the potential you have seen so far in the programs that you are presenting. So let's go to an example. Descriptive data will look like, in January 2022, 100 new participants attended the financial literacy classes. While in average, most of our months, we got 25 new people and joining monthly. So January is super high, and then the other months like even up. Comparison to the next year, in January 2023, we got 125 new people, right, that attended financial literacy classes, while in the other months, the average is about 28 people. By looking at the data in the descriptive manner, I can make some quick decisions. First, well, something must be working because I got more people in between one year and another. So let's continue doing what we were doing. Hopefully in 2024, it will be better, right? Also, I can definitely see that most people come in the beginning of the year and then, the numbers are pretty steady throughout the year. So when you move into the predictive stage, you can make assumptions like, I'm going to find out why more people came in general. So I'm going to ask participants, and they got a survey, and they told us that they were more motivated to learn how to manage their finances at the beginning of the year. Right? Last year didn't go so well financially for them. So this year they really want to get a hold of it. They really want to do better with their finances. So January is probably the best month to recruit new financial literacy students because of New Year's resolutions. More people want to do better. Therefore, when I do pass into the prescriptive stage, I can say that based on those findings, we should probably be promoting heavily the financial classes in the month of December. So that's how the stages work when it comes to data analysis. You get your basic, and then you can make assumptions, you confirm your assumptions, and then you make decisions based on what you learn. All right? I wanted to see if any questions. All right. So we are going to take a 7-minute break. 7 minutes. And then we'll move into the last part of the presentation. So it's 1:21. We'll be back at 1:28.
Thank you.
Thank you. Resume recording. Okay, so now that we get started again, the first thing I have is a question for the group. What is your biggest challenge when collecting data? Because we want to address those. If anybody in the room would like to share, or someone in the virtual world.
I'll go.
Okay.
I think the thing that just frustrates me is when we have data and it is not current, it's not fresh, it's not valid.
Mm-hmm.
And so how can we make an informed decision with information or data bits that are outdated?
And when you collect the data yourself, Consuelo, what is challenging?
I shouldn't say I can, but we can control the data that we collect locally, but the historical database is not always up to date.
Mm-hmm.
And so then what it makes us have to go back to and try to contact the individual and then verify, validate, update the information so that we can continuously interact with them on a timely manner and send them the information that it's necessary for them to make informed decisions.
So if I could interpret that, it would be like poor collecting data procedures, maybe?
Something as simple as what is their current telephone number?
Mm-hmm. People change telephone numbers a lot.
And email addresses.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So it is
so then
challenging.
we're put in a position where we have to be like the detective McGruff. Who talked to them, who has the latest number for them. And that's why it's important for us as a group, collectively, our staff meetings, we share that information.
To make sure. And, sometimes systems are not necessarily connected. Like if people are collecting their data in an Excel sheet, and other people are collecting their data in a software and those data are not communicating, it's really hard to get to the final thing. And even if Excel is the only thing we have to track data, like who made the last change? Well, we can go to the history of the document maybe, but like when was it updated and so on, right? So it comes to data procedures, it comes to people. It has to do with people. Because I can have all the procedures in the world, If I don't follow those procedures, then there's no sense of having them, right? So as individuals, really getting on with what our system is just really, really important. Thank you for sharing, Consuelo. Who else wants to share your biggest challenge when collecting data?
I would say I'm talking sort of in general, but not so much, my specific, but I do think a big challenge when it comes to data is turning the data into activity, actually taking the data and do something with it, creating an activity, creating a, activity is kind of a general word, but it's great to collect the data, but now what do you do with it?
Right. So the solution for that is that when you become more acquainted with your data, and you are looking at it all the time, you immediately start building that muscle in your head of what do I do with this? So it doesn't happen in like of sudden. It's not like you have like a light from heaven and your ideas come up. But what happens is that little by little you start inferring information from the data and start thinking about how can I use this more. But if you never take a look at your data, if you never compare your data, if you never go through the first step that we just talked about, the comparative kind of thing, you will never get to that point in which you get to make decisions based on the data you have. Which is hard because most people feel like they don't like data. They don't even like to enter the data, right? So when we work with people in our organizations, what we really need to show them is the advantage of working with data. Like, look at what you were able to show personally of the work you did based on this information you collected. Do you want to show your great work? Really incentivize our teams, and we can talk about it when we do our coaching session, right? Or how do you coach people to get to where you need them to be? Because not everybody loves numbers. I don't love data personally. I see the benefit of it, but in general, I'm like, oh my God, it's time to enter this information, right? All right. Anybody else would like to share?
I'll add that I have two challenges. One is, regardless of reporting, no two reports are ever the same. Everybody wants it differently. There is no one system that I can just go to and say,
Definitely.
here,
Yep.
this is it. It's all scattered, and the tools are generally, essentially HUD is our funder for most of our programs, and it's very archaic, and difficult to use. And some of the reports that I have to do, they're 3 numbers. Okay, how hard can it be to get 3 numbers? But it takes me weeks to pull financial information from different places. It's just, I'd like to have one system that I could just go to and get what I need, but it's all.
I don't like to share.
Share, people work in their silos and they don't
It's a
communicate.
challenge I have.
Yeah.
with all the different ways to
Mhm.
save data.
Yeah, it's hard. I feel your pain. How many systems do you have to work with in general to get to what you need to show?
I can't even count.
Oh, wow.
I just can't even count,
Mm-hmm.
because every grant that we have is a different type of reporting, a different reporting package, and different data.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And this is what happens when people in big offices are making decisions for us regarding what are we supposed to report. They don't have their feet, on the ground working with people. They don't understand what their challenges are. They think that, they perception of how life should be like is what you should be showing for results. And at the same time, right, they are not in close contact with the people we're serving and they don't know their challenges. My hope is that one day we nonprofits can teach our funders more. I have to say that some funders are very open to hearing say, actually, we don't measure that because it doesn't it doesn't impact our population, so we stop measuring that path. We can give you this other information instead. And a lot of people are willing to learn. I would say that funders in Lower Fairfield County, like foundations and so on, open to hearing what organizations need. But you have to take that step. You have to tell them. You have to kind of like say, okay, this is what we have and can provide you. It's not exactly what you're asking me, but this is how we found our data to be more effective. With the state and the federal funding, I know it's more challenging. They have a set rules about how they want things to see things. But when it comes to private funding, there is more opportunity to find that. And that goes back to the what Lisa's issue is regarding multi-house and trying to prove that the work that they are doing is relevant to the people that they are serving. By the way, Lisa, I forgot to say multi-house is a great organization. I'm really glad you're there.
Thank you very
Um,
much.
So yeah, so that's challenging, right? To get what is meaningful in one system to make it efficient, right? Anybody else would like to share about their challenge when collecting data?
I think for me, because I've moved around quite a bit in different agencies, and I've stayed, 3 or 4 years, it's trying to look back on data that was collected and making that relevant to what we're trying to collect now. And that's been difficult because everybody, as was just said, everybody collects different things and stores it in different places. And I know from in my head what we need and what I think we need, and yet finding where that data is very difficult at times. So that's very frustrating.
Yeah. So it's a transition, right? First
Yeah,
of all, if you were to have your board of directors resources to decide on a resource that is very important for you, you really have to make a case of getting a good data management system.
agreed.
Because you are spending collectively a lot of time trying to figure out where the data is, how you're going to manage it, and how you're going to interpret it, right?
Yes,
And that's money. Like every hour of your work is money. And I think that people react very well to the money incentive. If your board of directors is saying, no, well, we don't have the funds to buy this software that you guys need, you can say, actually, it's going to be more expensive for the organization if you don't pay for the software that we need. Because then it's people's time that we are using to get to where we need to be instead of providing the services that we need. Okay, great. Well, great sharing. Thank you so much. We are not alone on this. Many people experience the same kind of challenges. So thank you so much for sharing from remote. See. Okay, so collecting data effectively. Like I said before, data should be before thought, not an afterthought. So when you add programs, you have to think about your data before you even start thinking about the program. So when you collect effectively data, it does answer this one question. How do I know if I am successful? That's the main question that you need to start brainstorming with. If my program did really, really well, how do I know that I was successful? In other words, more people came to the program, more children were fed, more families found stability. What does stability look like? You think about housing looks like stability. Going to school looks like stability, right? You kind of like have to get into the nitty gritty, and this even can be a fun process of thinking, right? How do I know I'm successful? You can do a whole brainstorming with your team and have it in a board and say, okay, how do we know that this program is really working? And getting the answers, getting kind of like everybody's input. Why do you need everybody's input? Because the people that are giving you the inputs are the ones that are doing the work, and they are the ones that are working with the population that you are serving. So like I said before, data planning should be part of your program planning process. It's not like I plan a program and then there is the data I have to give, right? It's like I plan a program with my data in mind. So how do you go about that? You start with the magic questions. These questions, I don't know why, but they fit every single situation. It's the who, the why, the what, the when, the where, and the how. So before you start collecting data, you collect some information before you start the planning. First of all, if I'm going to collect data, what do I want to do with it? And on top of that, what problem am I trying to resolve? Right? It has to be in alignment with the program that you're running and the program that your organization, like the mission of your organization. Who do I want to serve? Who is my target population? We want to ask those questions right in the beginning. Do I want to, for this financial stability program, do I want to serve the earth so that the people, the rest of the family can go to work and do what they need to do? Do I want to serve the children so that mom and dad can both take jobs during the day while the children are receiving services from us? Who is my target population? Then you need to plan the logistics of your program. What do I want to do? What does it look like? When do I want to do it? Where do I want to do it? And what resources do I need? When you are doing the logistics, it's very important to use the information you have from the past, right? For example, I know I have a program in which I teach some courses, but in the past, for the last 2 years, I have observed that between these November and January, people don't come to the class. It's the holidays. Their mind is in something else. And then between July and August, they don't come to the class either. Or they have, other needs. People need to stay home with the kids because there's no school. Who knows? So, once I collect that information and confirm that information I have is accurate, what I want to do is to plan to use my resources more effectively. So now I decide that I'm going to run the program only between January and June. Then I'll stop the program to save my resources that I need at the time, and then I'll start running it again between August and November, right? For example, when we decided our workshops, we know that a lot of people are in vacation in August, so we said we are not going to have a class in August, and same thing in December. That's why these workshops are 10, because we know that most people have other commitments going on during those weeks. Therefore, they're very busy. When do I want to do it? That's what you were talking. Where, location, space, and more importantly, what kind of resources do I need? Now, let's take a little test here and tell me what are resources? It's not only money. What is resources? Tools, okay.
Time.
People,
People,
contacts,
time, yeah,
Base.
space, software, right? These things are resources. If I want to run a program that is new, and I'm able to hire, let's say, an intern, the started, and because I really want that intern to stay with me, we're gonna pay them a little bit of money. We didn't really need the intern. I need a desk for the intern. I need a chair for the intern. I need a computer for the intern, right? Those are the things that we need to plan. And when we are thinking about our data and we are like asking for money, we have to incorporate that because things don't happen magically. So resources are incredibly important, and you gotta think about all of that. And after you plan your logistics of how a program will work, you want to set goals. You want to know, again, the magic question, how will I know if I'm successful? That's when you start talking about, how can I kind of measure my success? Is it the number of people? Is it the stories I collect, right? Do I use a combination between collecting numbers and sign-ups for the people that came and then sending them a survey to see if they were happy with it, right? How do I make decisions based on knowing what is going to bring me success. For example, for these workshops, for us, it's the number of people that really make it to the class, but also the feedback that we get, whether people were happy with the class or not. That helps us make decisions. And at the end of the first 10 sessions we did last year, we sent another survey to ask people, what do you want to hear about? Then you consult. Two bases. You need to consult with your IT department or whoever manages your data system. Does the system I have allow me to measure this? The state is giving you some sort of software that you need to use to measure success. I think my success looks differently, and this software is not measuring that. How do I kind of like talk to them and see if we can make something else available to measure the success? And then, more importantly, you have to speak whoever does development in your organization, right? Sometimes it's the executive director themselves, but does development in reg grants, whether the information you're obtaining is relevant to others. How do you know if the information you obtain is relevant to others? I'm not talking about participants. I'm asking other people, like people that give you money or people that want to talk, volunteer, and so on. How do you know? Good. Excellent. You ask them. You definitely ask them, right? Okay, so we are reaching kind of the end, and I would love to get some comments and so on, but I'm going to say a little something about data collecting software and what it should have. If you have to make a decision about getting software that is effectively at collecting data you need. It should be first practical to use. It can be a system that you, and I know some people are given a system, but if you have the option to choose, it should be something that is easy for people to use. It doesn't have to require to like read a whole huge manual. It has to be instinctive. People have to be able to figure out how to use it easily. Training is necessary, but you can't be like every time you face the fact that you need to get some numbers, trying to figure out from zero, what does it look like? It has to be customizable to your needs, right? Your needs are going to change over time, especially if you start collecting meaningful data. So whatever program you get needs to be able to have customization for you to collect other kind of data that is important. You have to be able to connect all your efforts. Here goes to the point of what Lisa was mentioning, right? She's got different systems. They are not talking to each other, and they are not able to connect all your efforts. So what housing efforts look like are very different to what, multi-house efforts look like. The impact is different. They are helping people in a different way, sometimes in similar ways, but other times in different ways. So you need to connect all your efforts. It has to be compatible with many platforms. You have to be able to explore information, getting into another platform, right? It has to save you time, not give you more work. And it has to produce easy to understand reports, including at a glance view of your results, which are often called like dashboards. Why are dashboards so important? Because if you don't have time to keep analyzing your data, you can take a quick look and say, okay, this is how I'm doing. You can set up your dashboard to show you the things that are important to you. So that's on data collecting software. Difficult to make decisions. There are many products out there. I would recommend if anybody has to get a data collective, get one that provides you with at least a 3-month trial so that you can use it and see if it's functional to you before making any kind of commitments, right? Sometimes you can get representatives to really give in. You need to see a demonstration, see how it can be used. Also, most likely you may change the program that you're using. Like I use an HR system that when I started using it was good. It helped what I needed, but now we are in a more advanced point that I think it's going to require more advanced kind of program. So I have to be able to get my information out and pull it into the other program easily, right? And I want to make sure that the software company is gonna help me do that they're gonna help me, and I'm not like, I don't end up buying a new program and continue using the old program because I don't know how the new program works. And I have all this information sitting somewhere and I can't do anything with it because the transition wasn't smooth. So that's pretty much what I have for you guys today. I would love to hear some thoughts from the audience. If you have anything you think we didn't cover that you would like to give us a little bit of feedback on. No? Looks good? How are you guys doing here? Good?
Yeah.
Yep. So our next workshop is going to be on evolving from individual contributor to an standing leader. Right? We're gonna help you find your leader voice. And really become kind of like get some thoughts and ideas that could be helpful to you when you want to be heard, when you want to be part of the bigger group that is making the decisions, and so on. So we are all leaders in our lives in different aspects. So we're going to start from what you have to where you want to be. All right? Thank you, everybody. Thank you. At the virtual world, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to stop sharing. Hold on. I'll share that. Stop share. Okay, so we can see everybody at home. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
It was good to see you. And we will see you at the next one.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.